Hello. Welcome. My name's Andrew. I'm one of the co-founders of Chroma Golem, and I make video games. Sorry for the delay starting. I know the start screen was up for almost 5 minutes, but sometimes things need done. But everything should be set up now. I'm gonna show off what I've got, but I'm gonna say that normally I leave some sort of project or feature that I have a pretty good plan for, that I'm like, I'm going to do that on stream and it'll be fun and I'll get it done and people will like it. But this week we have no such thing. I was going to just kind of see what we would get into. We just finished wrapping up all the systems work, just kind of putting everything together that we've been working on in the last month. So I will show off all that together real fast, but about 10 minutes before this stream, we finally got approved for a big old server on Azure for our Stable Diffusion setup. So I think what we're going to do is try and hook up Stable Diffusion for our game so we can, I'll show you around, but basically we want to generate images for the items that we're crafting in the game, since we're already using the Chroma Golem API for generating that item data, but we just have kind of placeholders for the images right now. We're just using their names. So let me actually, where's my window? All right. Welcome back to our nice fancy world. I don't think we had any of this actually last week. We were just kind of starting to carve out on the terrain, I think. Yeah, maybe I should start these streams a little backup, a little replay of the final bits of the last stream, because we built so much this week. But let me just hop on in and I'll, walk around, show it off. If you've tuned into previous stream or two, you might recognize a lot of these features, but we've been building them all in piecemeal. We finally got them all put together. We're shooting for a Steam demo at the end of the month-ish, but obviously there's still a bit more to do, so maybe like a week later. But now we are in a world now, big old 3D world. We've got our interactable items system back in the game, so you can click on stuff to interact with it. We've got our tool belt back in the game, so you can choose what item you're interacting with objects with. Obviously all our UI is back in the game. We're still building this codex over here, but you can kind of see over here where we have these items. Obviously the text isn't the final look for your inventory here. But the cool thing about this game is you can craft any two items together you want. So I don't think we have any recipes in the game to show off for things that are already in the game, but if we create something new, like we combine a saw and some scissors, we still need to work out some of the animations and stuff, but we break everything. Yeah, we're doing it live and there are errors. Let's try that again. We mix a scythe and some shears. I guess we probably need a restart. This happens because I'm giving the AI a little bit too much flexibility in the output it can give, whereas the actual data of the item is a different type. We're using integers for weights because I don't want decimals and stuff cluttering up the UI. Let's try this again. We mix an axe and maybe a pickaxe. We get something fun. We've got a harvester. So that is a new item in the game. Doesn't exist in the game. That recipe didn't exist in the game, but now this item does exist in the game, so like traveling merchants and stuff can be selling it. If you go get another axe and another pickaxe and you combine them, that recipe now exists, so you'll always get a harvester. You'll be able to browse those over here and craft stuff that way. But I mean, that's where this image generation is going to come in. Obviously all these items need images to start, but every time you create a new item, we're going to need new items that way. And so let me also show off some of these tools. So if we were to walk over to like maybe a good old oak tree over here, and we use well, I guess we don't have our axe anymore. We can see what we get with a harvester. So what he does is he kind of inspects the tree with the item you have, and it determines what item you'll get when you harvest it. So we're getting oak logs, which makes a lot of sense because this was part axe. That's what you get with an axe. But if we were to use a hammer on it, that's a different item. So now he's coming up with a plan for what you get. Now we're getting cracked oak logs. So one more try with a scythe. New item. We are generating these recipes on the fly. Now we're getting rough oak logs. So as you play through this game, you're going to basically create more and more items in the world. You're going to expand out the like crafting web of items that you can build. You've got all these items now. If we wanted to mix like oak logs and I don't know, a hoe, you get a sturdy hoe. Or maybe if you want, let's do oak logs and cracked oak logs. Maybe you get regular oak logs or something. I don't know, refined oak logs. So you'll see that this is 1 gold in the bottom right corner and 2 gold. This is 3 gold. Obviously, you get your money back, hopefully, but there might be some recipes that you find where you make more money. So if this were a money maker, you would want to go out and say, all right, I need cracked oak logs and I need oak logs. So I need to go get a tool that lets me get oak logs from an oak tree and also a tool that lets me get cracked oak logs. You go harvest all that. That's I think, fun little money maker for how I've been playing. But that's all well and good. The crafting system is fun, but what can you do with it? Well, the answer is every NPC in town is also powered by an AI. So they all have personalities, they all have likes and dislikes, preferences. They have a context of knowing a little bit around the area and how they fit into it. So anytime you talk to an NPC, you'll get a little introduction, you'll get a little problem they have. So this guy, Braun, every time he starts working on metal, it begins to sing. Not just any tune, but secrets and tales from its past. It's causing quite an uproar, making it impossible to concentrate. So that's a pretty interesting problem for a blacksmith to have, I suppose. We also get a little bit of AI generated suggestions, which I might want to shorten these out. They're a little bit long to read, but they give you a couple things that you could suggest, or you can type your own comment. Let's suggest finding a mage to silence the metal's enchantment. So it's going to generate a response from you. It's then going to generate a response from the NPC, and you're kind of carried down this quest based on your choices there, and you get a few more options of what to say from then on. And every NPC has this sort of quest path where they'll introduce themselves, and then they use all the information they know about themselves and the world and you to come up with some sort of quest or problem. And that's where all the crafting comes in, where you can build all these items, basically an infinite amount of items, but your goal is to craft the items that you think would be helpful for a particular NPC's problem. So like this guy, we already talked about the metal that sings to him when he's working and he can't concentrate. So now when we come back, he's asking if you have some sort of update. And you'd be able to ask, like, do you think headphones would work? He probably wants you to actually solve his problem, but maybe he'd be open to some sort of, solution that lets him work. So, yeah, he probably wouldn't like the headphones, but you get kind of a sense of how you can kind of craft stuff. So you basically go out, collect the items you need. Maybe you check your codex for what items you can craft, and then you craft something new, give it to them. And that's just by dragging it over, I believe, or can't remember how to do that. We'll get back to that. Maybe I didn't hook that back up. But yeah, that's the gist. On this stream today, I think we're going to just work on trying to get image generation for these items. So, got a big old world. I'd love to show it off. We'll probably do that maybe on another stream unless somebody pops in and asks about it. But I think once we get the Stable Diffusion set up, we'll probably be moving to another scene just for testing. But that's what we've got. It's looking good so far. Good little 10-minute introduction. So, as I said, I don't really have a plan for Stable Diffusion. I just set up the server like 10 minutes ago, but I did sleep last night and I have coffee, so I think we can probably figure it out. So, let me start by, let's see here. I think I'll dox myself a little bit by exposing this IP, but we're going to basically move to a slightly larger server after the Discord, or after the stream, I think, so this won't be in use anymore. But we did set up, we're using this this image here for deploying to Azure pretty quickly. Let me just link that in the chat just so it gets saved in the stream somewhere for anybody who wants to reference it. Oh, that's awful. White on white. Let's try that instead. All right, so anybody watching the VOD or YouTube later can get that. But basically, this just deploys an image of a pre-set up server that has Stable Diffusion, it has automatic 11111, 1111111, and it runs it hopefully with the API, but we'll double check that. I guess that is probably the first thing we want to do. I'm also new to Azure, so might need to click around a little bit and find out what's going on. But I think our game plan here is we want to go into the server. We want to make sure it's running with the API already on. If it isn't, we will go edit the startup instructions to pass that -- API flag that we need. And then we'll go find out where the documentation is and get an image generated. And then we will figure out how to pull that image into Unity and save it as a sprite. Yeah, probably a sprite. And then we'll use that sprite as the image for an item. So let me just quickly, I know I'm covering up this console a little bit. I just want to see if we can find diffusion maybe, or it's probably running Python actually. All right, there we go. That looks good. So we've got, I think our networking stuff, launch.py looks familiar. API, cool. Well, it's already good to go. So that means here, this is the front end for it, but we're going to use the API. So let's grab those documentation, those docs. Not maintained. Information is likely out of date. Oh, okay. /docs is all we need. And I do want to, I know I generated something last night, but let's just make, or not last night, right before the stream, but let's just make sure that it's still working. So if we do like a crystal sword video game item asset, let's just make something real fast, make sure it like looks good. Some of the test images on a smaller server I was testing out were pretty garbage, so yeah, kind of like that. Let's say diptych grid triptych. Fun little fact, diptych and triptych are words that are basically grids of 2 and 3. So when you have like 2 images next to each other, it's a diptych. 3 images is a triptych. They're great for making AIs focus on a single thing. So this is garbage, actually. Is it because of our choice of prompt? Because one thing that we aren't going to do today, and we'll probably do another day, is we're going to find a different model specifically for like image generation, and then we'll probably train our own LoRa for getting a consistent style. But I do want to just get this like plumbing in place. All right, so this is fine. Cartoon of a sword, maybe. Like it's not great, and we're gonna scale it down to probably like 64 by 64, 128 maybe. I just want to make sure it's not like literal garbage. Like, I don't know what this is, but we'll get stuff working and then we'll improve the quality of it by choosing another model or maybe training our own model if we need to, and then also throwing a LoRa in front. But where we were at, we were checking out the docs. So these are all the endpoints that we could hit from Unity. We're looking for one that might give us an image back. Maybe run. No, I don't think so. Text to image looks promising. We also have image to image down here, but let's check out the rest. We can check the progress on a generation. Hopefully that isn't necessary. I'm trying to get a big enough machine that they're pretty quick. Hey, Best Gameplay, welcome in. Thank you. How's it going? We are just figuring out how to interact with the Stable Diffusion API through Automatic 1111. We're going to generate some images for the items in our game. We could do all that at runtime and stuff, but in this game you actually craft new items all the time that aren't in the game, and we're using AI to generate that data, so we also need to generate some images for those as well. So basically if you take a hoe and some scissors, that item that it creates isn't in the game yet, so you get a new item, and we're setting up image generation for those new items as well, just so they're not text on the screen. And you can use those items throughout the game. You didn't understand. Okay. Well, maybe it'll become a little clearer. Basically, a great example is if you had two axes in the game, maybe you combine those in the game. We use AI to create a new item in the game. Maybe it'll make a battle axe for you. And right now, the result is literally just an item in the game, but it just says battle axe. It doesn't have any icon or anything. So we're setting this up to generate these images for those items. And hoping that it's going to look good, but still figuring stuff out. What brought you in? You having a good day? So this might be a little bit better of an icon for a battle axe in the game. Obviously we're going to change out like the model and style and stuff, but we're basically just getting all that plumbing going so we can generate an item image and pull it into the actual game that the player is playing and save it so it's always used for that item. So I think this is the API endpoint that we want, the text to image, and doesn't look that bad. Looks like it's got everything we need. We guess we can try it out here. See what we get. Oh, I guess it was an empty prompt. Let's say bear wearing a beret. Oh, my bad. You were searching for Terraria tags, and I've got one. I was actually playing Terraria with the other co-founder of my studio the other day. Let me actually remove that tag real fast, but still happy to have you here. This stream is not related to Terraria. Sorry about that. But thanks for popping in. We'll probably play Terraria Probably sometime this week. We got a couple new players that hadn't ever played before, and we were showing them around. We made it up to Skeletron, and we also beat the Eater of Worlds. Is that the one pre-hard mode? The big worm guy. So we got actually a lot further than I thought we would. It was a pretty fun stream. So they're all itching to play some more. So we'll probably play sometime this week, but I'm not sure when. But I did just update my tags, so shouldn't actually be stealing Terraria viewers anymore. Thanks for letting me know. Unprocessable entity. Alright, we got a lot of placeholder stuff. Let's go ahead and see if we can just cut all that out. I'm going to leave a few in that I might want to tweak though. So if we just pass these in, will it work? Best gameplay. Do you play a lot of Terraria? I used to play a ton, and I kind of haven't in a long while until my friend asked if he wanted to play with him, and he hadn't played before, so I got sucked back in. But I read that there's a new update coming out soon, so I've been trying to decide, do I want to get sucked in now or do I want to wait for the update? Let's see here. What did we break? Expected property name enclosed. Did we miss a comma somewhere or something? No. You last played 5 years ago. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at as well. Like I put, it was probably like 500 hours or something in. I got pretty deep into it, and then I kind of moved to like a lot of RimWorld and a lot of Kenshi. And also my wife started playing Minecraft and I started playing with her. So kind of similar games that scratch a similar itch, but I feel Terraria calling to me. I might play some more soon. You should play. Oh, you know what? I bet it was because we had this comma on the end. This should work, hopefully. We'll get a little picture of a bear wearing a beret. And I'm gonna put this over here so I don't cover it up. Oh. I will admit that I put many hours into Terraria, but I never actually beat it. I usually, once those stones come down for the Moon Lord, and it's like all calamity or not the mod calamity, but just everything's going into chaos. That's where I'm like, all right, I just want to go back to fun building and like building houses and designing them and stuff. Interesting. We got, looks like a base 64 representation of the image. I was curious how it would ship the image back, but this is probably actually better. So if we take this and we say decode base 64 image, I've done this before. We plop that in. This is the actual image, so we can work with that, I think. I mean, silly image, but it's working. So what we need to do from here is basically take this curl request, port it into C# so Unity can run it. We wait for that response, which is base 64. And then in C# we need to maybe create sprite from base 64 data. Can we do that? Probably create the image in memory and then save it that way. Oh, okay. We just get the data of the image and then load it into a texture, create the sprite from the texture. We can do that. So I think I'm going to do one quick little flyby as a goodbye to our world that we worked so hard on this week, because we're going to move to a new scene just for testing this out. But it's a very pretty world. I worked very hard on it. Can't wait to play in it. But let's go over to, we can do our interactables test scene. You're going to sleep, you have school, it's 2 a.m. and I need to wake up at 5 a.m. Yikes, my guy. Sleep well. Good luck at school. Thanks for tuning in. And next time if you see me and I have a Terraria tag, I will be playing Terraria. So, thanks for tuning in. See ya. Alrighty, how do we want to do this? So we've got, let's set up a quick little Stable Diffusion service. We'll make a new script for that. Oh. I think my editor's on the wrong workspace. Hold the phone. Alright, we're golden. Alright, close others, all but this. Close all but this and that. Stable Diffusion service. We will make a singleton so we can access it from wherever. The methods that we're going to need are public. Do we have a base 64 type? We do. Does that work? I don't want to mess with that. Let's just do a string get image data base 64 data, and the parameters that we need to send in are let's see here. What did we actually send? Prompt, negative prompt. I think we'll strip out the seed. I want to check to see if height and width at a smaller size works, because we're going to be downscaling anyway. I worry that the model is going to get incomprehensible at the smaller sizes because all the training data was like 512 by 512 or 768 or something. But let's do a quick generation of a 64 by 64 image, which this looks like it probably is already done. So that was super fast actually, but we need to check the quality of the image. Did I miss a character? Oh, yep. Got an extra quotation mark at the beginning. Yeah, so that's definitely unusable. So we will go ahead and we'll keep the height and width around, so we could maybe upscale it and have larger image generated, but I think in terms of the parameters of this function, we will do a string prompt and a string negative prompt. And then maybe just for placeholders in here, we'll do int width. Wow. And height. And so what we need to do is, let's go ahead and just take this. Actually, let's string, what do we want to call text to image endpoint? Whoops. All right, so we'll use that, and let's just cheat and have AI generate this for us as well. Where is my window. Alrighty, so if we just say blah blah blah, convert this into a C# function or just into C# logic, I can put in my Unity function. Cool, cool, cool. Unity web request, that's what we're gonna use. We will, yeah, I guess we do need to make this a coroutine. Cat's running around. We need to make this a coroutine because it's going to take a while to generate and we don't want to block the main thread. But I'm unsure how we get the data back. Let's see. The request results in a base 64 string we need to return to the calling function. How do we do that? Easy peas. This is programming in 2024. And I keep losing all my windows. Here we go. Just bringing up the Twitch window again so I can see chat. Alright, we can use a delegate. Don't know about the event though. But, how do we want to structure this? We could avoid the abstraction entirely if we move all this into our item database in a like Stable Diffusion region where we make the request to get the data back and then immediately create the item itself. Makes this less generic and reusable, but makes the code a little cleaner. So I think we'll do that instead. So over in our item database instead, let's take a look at what we've got. Got creating items, retrieving items, manipulating items. Let's add another region for image generation. And I want to take a second and think through like the flow of this because we already have a pretty lengthy flow of generating items. We basically pass in the ingredients in a recipe to an LLM to get out a JSON representation of an item. And that's the point where we'll have the name and description, and that's what we'll pass through to Stable Diffusion. So let's take a quick look. We've got create item without AI. I'm pretty sure we have create item with AI as well. Right? Or is that just create item? Take a look in our recipe database. I think that's actually what is handling the flow. So that's where we load in all our hard-coded items at the start. And yeah, we've got some logic for triggering the result. So whatever uses this item combining controller, craft item from ingredients. So this is where we craft items in the inventory. There's a couple other cases of where we create items, like when you use an item on a object and it creates a new item, and a few others. But I think what we will do is create a function in the item database for generating an image for that item, and then we will call that function from each of these places. We don't need to go edit them all. We still want to probably clean up some of the responsibilities in some of these places because they are doing some of the same things, but they're different enough that they live in different places to make it a little easier right now. So let's start with crafting in the inventory. What we want to do is let's first make sure that our item object wait, do we not have... Okay, it's not a scriptable object. We do want to add in a sprite for the image though. So we have something to set. And this is probably the point where we would convert them over to scriptable objects so we can set all those sprites for the default images, but we'll do that another time. I want to focus on Stable Diffusion here. But here, this is the flow for if there's not an existing recipe for mixing these two ingredients together. We consume both, redraw those slots just to show they've been consumed, and then go into this flow of start combination of two items. And in here, we set our in progress recipe generation to store a lot of the data being generated. Create our placeholder recipe to fill in and pass that through probably. Where does this... Oh, I guess we just read that from got result from recipe callback. Is this used at all? A little suspicious. If I comment that out, do I get a compilation error? No, but I don't think it's actually compiling because we had the error elsewhere. Let's see here. So we don't need to worry about that. What we want to do is when we get our new item data, that is where we want to now generate an image for this item. And so that can live in the item database. We'll stick it down here. Say public IEnumerator. Flow wise, we might want to have this also convert over to a coroutine just so we can yield until the image is done, so we can wait until it has an image to add it to the inventory. But I think what might be better, just for like not blocking the inventory for so long while we generate images, maybe we give it a placeholder image so we can immediately add it to the player's inventory and they can go about playing. And then in the background we can be generating a new image that we can just swap in when it's ready. Is that weird? Is it weird if you get an item in your inventory and then it has like a weird placeholder image and then it changes to a real image later, but only on new items that you're just now discovering? Because alternatively, what would happen is so let me fix this so I can return whatever the infinite loop. Let's just do this. Now let's think through how we want this like flow to flow, because we have two options here. One is to generate the item image in serial after getting the data and then having the player wait until that's also done, or we could give them the item once we get the data and then do it in parallel in the background. So if we combine these two items, the amount of time that you wait is just for getting the data. So we're generating a JSON representation of both items in the background. We're getting a new one. That's pretty fast. But what we're wondering is if you tack on the image generation at the end of that, is it going to make it too slow? I mean, maybe not. Just depends on how fast we can get the image generation, I guess. Because it's only like a couple seconds for generating the data. Maybe like 5-6 seconds. And then if we were to take a 512 by 512, it's going to be like another probably 15 to 20 seconds, which feels like a really long wait on top of just a couple seconds when we could get away with just a couple seconds. We will beef up this server, so it won't actually be quite that long, but I really want to avoid just making them wait forever. But I guess it is kind of a cool, like, you are creating an item in this game that doesn't exist yet, so we can kind of mask it a little bit with animations and mostly animations, just to make it feel more rewarding and like impactful of you put in a lot of work to this and then you created this brand new item. I feel like that might be simpler and better than adding an item to the inventory that doesn't have an image yet. So you'd get an item over here with like a placeholder, and then you bring it in and it still has a placeholder, and then sometime like 10 seconds later you get the actual image for it. So I think we want to wait for the image, and I think that's going to be fine. So what we're going to do now is we will actually have a full on we want to have a coroutine in the item database that allows us to pass in the item that we want to generate the image for, and also a callback for what to do after that image is generated. And then we'll do all this in the callback so we know that we have the data and the image. And I think that'll flow smoothly. So what we want to do is generate image for item. We want to pass in item and callback. I mean, I guess I think we're abstracting a little too much. We're just going to leave it in here. We're going to have it all live in this function. We'll do a public IEnumerator generate image for item. So no callback needed because we can just stick all this in here. And actually what we will do is have a separate one real fast for private void got image for item. That's where we're gonna parse the base 64 and stuff, but that's actually where we will do all this fancy stuff afterwards. We do want to pass through the item all the way through, although we could get that from the in progress generation structure that we've set up. But here what we can do is we'll start the coroutine of generate image for item. And so that will let us make the web request to the API without it blocking the main thread. Hi again. Sleep equals time waste. I fully agree with you there. I'm so tired today, but I'm just sipping on coffee, and I was coding on this late last night and the night before and the night before, and I'm glad we're on the same page. Welcome back. We are deep in the plumbing now, but I think when we get on the other side of this, it'll all just work magically. So here is where we need to make the request to the API. We get back base64 data. So parse the data and add it and continue our item generation flow. So here we will parse that base64 data. We will set the image, and I think that'll be fine. We do need to also to-do handle image on set item data, but I think we can work around that. So here, that's where we want to just steal this request function that we built. So instead of our, let's go ahead and, I don't really trust myself to sanitize this string perfectly. So let's say I have the prompt stored on item.prompt. Can you include that instead? Because normally, I mean, we could just build the object and convert it into JSON ourselves, but with all these quoted strings, I feel like there's a chance that we'll generate an item with like a quote in its name or something, and it's gonna not parse or not sanitize correctly. This is fine. Yeah, we can do the token replacement that way. Cool. So let's take out height and width here. We don't actually want prompt. We want name and item.description. So that will give us, for example, if we were to do axe, it would give us axe dash ideal for turning mighty trees into manageable logs, blah, blah, blah. I think that's fine. We could just use the name, but I feel like it'll be nicer to be a little more specific. So if you were to generate something that's like a seashell wheelbarrow, and it has the description of this wheelbarrow has seashells for wheels, you'd actually get that description in the prompt of the image as well, instead of just working entirely off the name. So let's say string image text to image endpoint. We don't want that endpoint. We want ours, which is somewhere that guy. Post request. We are encoding all our bytes to send, specifying as JSON, sending the request, waiting until we either get an error or a response. So here is where we get the string, and what we want to do now is just say got image for item. We pass through our item, and we pass through our JSON response, which is a, oh, it's not actually just a JSON string, it's this hash with a bunch of other stuff. So what we want to do is, let's make a temporary class here real fast. We'll say class image generation response. And so here we've got string images. So that'll capture this array with that key. We also have a dictionary of stuff that we're really going to ignore. Keyboard is loud. I also am just now realizing I have, I think my mic is a little boosted because I was using my headset for the Terraria stream. But let me show you my keyboard. It's a nice keyboard. Hey, Art with Brenda, coming on. Thanks for coming on in. I'm doing good. How are you? I have the Keychron. Which one is it? The full size something. Yeah, the V6. This bad boy. He's a beaut. I love having so many buttons, even these buttons up here that do nothing, but I bind them to things in Dota. And I've got this nice dial here. It's a really nice feel. I hope it's good sounding too. Let's see here. I am from the US. I'm actually living in Oregon right now. Yeah, buttons are the best. I'm glad it's a satisfying sound. Sometimes when I get more into the zone and just start coding away for a long time, I just turn the mic around and point it at the keyboard and go to town. But glad you can hear it when it's opposite the keyboard, I guess, or opposite the mic. Yeah, so we are doing game development. This is, can you tell me in detail what you're doing? Basically, we have a game that we've been working on for a couple months now. Let me comment out these errors real fast so I can show you. And I don't know if Best Gameplay was around when I was showing off the NPCs and stuff earlier, but the short answer is we're building a game, and in that game you have a infinite crafting system. So there's a couple different ways that the player can make items that aren't like in the game to start with. They can craft items by combining them with each other. They can produce new items by using different items on objects in the world. Like if you use a bucket on a tree, you might get sap. If you use an axe on a tree, you might get wood. If you use something else, like scissors on a tree, you might get clippings. And there's a bunch of other ways that they can produce new items, but the cool thing is that none of those items are coded into the game, so it's kind of this infinite system of using AI to generate the data for new items based on the context of what the player is doing. And all that is fun. You can just make whatever you want, so you mix a pickaxe and an axe. You see what you get. We broke it. Insecure connection. Oh, the stuff that I'm working on is causing an issue. Let me... that's what happens when you do it live. Let me move this back to where we were at. Comment this out. We try again. Everything's going to work perfectly this time, I promise. Probably. But, I mean, that's kind of the gist of the systems we're working on, but additionally we have all these NPCs in the game. We only have a couple right now, but they are also powered by AI, so they've got their own personalities and wants and likes and dislikes, and they've got a little like internal log of what is in the world, so they can generate their own quests of like, this is my profession, this is what I do and don't like, this is where I'm at in the world, this is some sort of quest or problem I'm having. And the player is tasked with basically crafting it through this infinite system, crafting items that they think would help each NPC's specific quests. We broke it again, but it's a different error. I gotta fix that too. It's great to hear, and I've been watching your stream for 30 minutes now, and I feel like a lot of information on your stream. That's good. I feel like I started these streams just to kind of get some feedback from people on what I was building, and they've kind of morphed into a lot of weeks people jump in the chat and ask questions and stuff, and I usually end up just like teaching people what I'm or how things are working, which is pretty fun. So glad it's filled with information. Hopefully it's not too dense. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. We've got a lot of fun stuff we're building, and we're trying to move quickly on it all. We've been working on this game for, I think it's a little bit over a month now. We're moving pretty quickly because of all the AI stuff we're doing. We don't have to spend a lot of time on learning a lot of stuff and basically sitting down and producing the content that we I'm a writer and I love writing, but I'm not going to go write descriptions for 500 items in the game and 500 objects and stuff like that. So it's helped a lot. Yeah, so it's pretty fun. A lot to do. You're absolutely right. That's all you do, or do you play any games? I play so many games. I definitely stream every Tuesday. I do game development, but I try to stream at least once around the week, playing some games. Lately I've streamed Terraria, Overwatch, Dota. I feel like I tried a new game the other day. Let's see what we got. I play tons and tons of games. I've always played games since like a kid. I love it. So it's kind of a dream that last year I got the opportunity to co-found a game studio, and I'm working with a cool guy named Andrew who's super smart. So he helps a lot with the math stuff. I help a lot with the writing, and I think we're making some pretty cool stuff. What's my favorite game? My favorite game is a little old title from the Super Nintendo named Chrono Trigger. Very, very good JRPG. Also pretty old now. So that's probably what I'd classify as my favorite, but the game I spend the most time playing is probably Dota. Hopelessly addicted, but I also play with a lot of friends, so it's not too much of a waste of time. I'm enjoying myself. I only feel a little bad when I see how many hours I've played. And one other fun thing with how we're leaning on AI and a lot of the items in this game, we also have the concept of workstations. I don't know if this will work because I haven't tested it. Oh no, that's not going to work. But that statue is one. We've also got an anvil. Basically in the statue, we've got some concept of, neither of those are hooked up to work in this scene. But if you pray to the statue, you can write a prayer of like, please bless this axe to cut down trees that are 10 stories tall. And the AI will take your prayer and also like the actions that you've done in the game to decide whether the deity likes you or dislikes you, and they'll decide whether to honor your prayer in some way or give you the opposite or do other things. And it's kind of a cool system to get new items that way. You create additional items and manipulate your items in fun ways. I'll try to watch your streams because your stream is such amazing. I was just thinking your stream looks like a professional type. Your talking style, your stream style, all looks a professional type. Well, thank you very much. I'm typically a very bland, monotonous speaker. I know my wife would say I'm not, but I think that I worry sometimes that I just kind of drone on and on and on and there's nothing exciting. I got a little tiny camera in the corner and that's really all that moves on the screen. But I mean, I've been programming for, like 2 decades now and playing games for even longer. So hopefully the expertise and the knowledge comes through and carries me. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. With that said, I think we're going to attempt to get this working. So one thing I noticed, our first error was we can't make HTTP requests. So hopefully this server is also set up to support HTTPS. Yikes. That may be an issue. At least it serves it on HTTPS. Let's see if we need to like pass some sort of flag for accept an invalid certificate or something. But flow-wise, I think we need to save the item somewhere. Yeah. So I think what we want to do, let's add the item to the item database up here so we can fetch it in here. I guess we don't need to do that if we're passing this instance of an item all the way through, because we'll still have it here. And then once this is done, we pass it through here, and that's where we can save it. But what we want to do is, this looks good. If we get a base 64 response back, which I remember what we were doing. We are setting up this schema down here because we don't actually get a base 64 response back. We get, what do we get? We get a JSON blob with a bunch of stuff in it that we don't really care about. So this is what we get. So actually I think what we can do is not have keys for those things that we don't care about, and they'll just get excluded from the parse. You can hear the scroll on my mouse. I will go ahead and turn down my mic sensitivity just a tad. Fun fact, I actually have a button on my mouse that makes it so you can't hear the scroll wheel. So that's fun. But I like the clickiness of it. Let me go ahead and turn down my mic just a tad. Alright, hopefully you can still hear me. Should be a little bit quieter, and all my accessories should also be quieter. Yeah, Brenda, you can ask me something. I will say that I don't typically buy anything off streams, but I do get a lot of people asking that, so happy to have you here, but that's just a little preface. But sure. Let's see here. So if we get our image this way, what we need to do is first parse. This is actually a response object now. So we parse response object to a image generation response object. We want to make sure we're using Newton's soft.json parser here because it handles the complex types that Unity's doesn't. So that looks fine. So now we can parse the base 64 data in response.images. So that actually looks pretty similar to the example that we had, but we will just go ahead and take that example so we know it works. This will be response.images, right? Why do we not have images? Inaccessible. Public and public. And images index 0. Skilled graphic designer. I appreciate the interest, Brenda, but I actually have several other artists who have reached out, and I've let them know that I'd potentially look into their stuff at a later time. I'm not looking to buy anything right now, or it's all good. Thank you, but no. Let's see here. So this will parse our data. We create a sprite from that. Now we can say item.sprite. Item dot, what did we call it? Item. Item.image is sprite. Cool. So if all goes well, that'll make the request, wait for the request to be done, grab the data off the request response, and parse that base64 back into a texture to be applied to an image. We save that image, correct dimensions, we set that on the item. So now we need to update our set item data to also set the image on the slot. So get slot data is inventory slot. And on that slot we have set item. And here's where we want to set the item image as well. Cool, thank you, Brenda. And we will go ahead and let's go ahead and add that image to our item slot. So we have the component to set. So item slot, a little sus. Let's see here. This hierarchy is getting so insanely large. I can't find anything. I know I need to clean things up, but boy howdy do I not want to. So we have item. It's not quite it. Inventory slot manager. I think that's what we want. Set item. Do we have a set item in here? Or do we just call... Oh, we do. Okay. Well, no, that just passes it through. Inventory slot. Set item. Right. Because this is actually just setting the item data, which we don't want to do. We want to set the display. Here. Not data updates. Just display. Alright, so image. That's where we will do the update, but we need to add the placeholder image first. So let's go look at our prefab inventory slot. That is not good. Let's do it like this. Inventory window, let's turn that on. Let's look at one in context so we can actually see how it looks. Alright, so this is inventory slot manager. Yes, that is correct. It has an image for a background, I assume. If we put an image in, where does it show? Is it all transparent? No. Oh, it's just covered up by the background, right? Cool. So let's take that out. Bright color so we can make sure that we see it if something goes wrong. But what we will do is add an image for icon. Stick it here. We will just give it something weird so we can kind of just see it in context of stack size and stuff on top of it. I think what we will do is probably remove the item name. Hopefully the icons are good enough that people can see what the item is without hovering over it. But you'll be able to see the name when you do hover over it. But we'll leave the name for now just so we can debug stuff. But here's our icon with an image. And what we will do is public image icon. Need to include UI. And so here we will say image dot, wait, what do we call it? Icon. Icon dot sprite is equal to get item dot image. So that should now set the image correctly. We have written a lot of code across the whole flow and we have not tested any of it. So maybe we should do that. But we do need to set the reference to our icon here, and we can't really apply the prefab changes here. So let's just copy that icon. Maybe we can bring it over this way. Yeah. So now we can, why can't I apply it? Is it just automatically applied when I update it there? Yeah, I guess so. Okay, so we're gonna leave this default here so we can make sure it gets overridden. For all of our global starting data items, they aren't going to have an image here. So we want to make sure that we're only doing this when it has an image. So let's go ahead and say sprite, item sprite is equal to that. And we can say if item sprite is not null, then we set it. Let you get the snacks now. Snacks are key to staying awake all night. Well, let me tell you. When you get back, you gotta tell me what snacks you're snacking on. I guess you wouldn't hear that if you have left to go get snacks. I'll ask if you don't give me the info. But this should now keep things from erroring for all the default items. They should now keep this default, and then when we craft a new item, we'll probably get an error somewhere along the way, but at least we can see where we're at. Alright, so every item has this icon now instead of their text, which probably shouldn't be covering up the text while we're a little sus that none of them have text now. Okay. Oh, right. It's because, yeah, inventory hasn't loaded. Because we had it open by default. So, dragging and dropping still works. Everything looks great. Now, if we mix an axe and a hoe, where will the error be? Or will it just work? Error. Certificate error. Dang. Yeah, I thought that might be an issue. I do not know how to fix that issue. Let's say let's ask the expert. Where are we at? New chat. We get an SSL certificate error when making this request. The certificate cannot be changed, so we want to ignore it and accept it. How to modify the code to tell Unity web request to ignore the invalid certificate. That is not true because we will fix it. I just want to get this working without messing with SSL stuff off screen. You can modify it by hooking into the server certificate validation callback. Okay. Ignore certificate errors. Interesting. You know what? Let's give it a shot. So all it changed was basically overriding the certificate validation callback to always return true. And then at the end, it disables the override. So other requests don't also always return true. You know, if it works, it works. We'll take that out because we're going to move this. We've got our Chroma Golem API. It just does text generation right now. So all this image generation is going to go into this API. So obviously we'll have a valid certificate there. I'm just hitting the API directly from Azure right now, just so we can get stuff working. Let's try this again. So we make scissors and a scythe, and hopefully no SSL error this time. SSL error. I wonder if there's a quick way to set up SSL on Azure. I don't really want to like generate a certificate and move it over and all that jazz. But I guess I will need it on Azure anyway, because we'll want to be using SSL from the API to the server. But this isn't even the final server that we're going to be on. It's just a test server. So I don't really want to do that here. So what we're going to do, let's tackle this a different way. Let's say, let's go back to HTTPS, or not HTTP, I mean. Let's get the error that we get that way, and then let's figure out how to just say like, okay, we want to use HTTP anyway, even though you don't want us to. I think that'll probably be easier than trying to not worry about SSL error. So here and here, what do we get? It's going to say must be HTTPS, insecure connection not allowed. Cool. So now Unity web request, how to allow HTTP insecure connection. Easy peas. Just a setting. Project settings, player, other settings. All right, we can work with that. Figured this might be a little easier than dealing with SSL stuff. Let's see. Project settings, player, other settings. Welcome back. You got to tell me what snacks you got. Snacks are key to staying awake all night. Somewhere in here is something to do with HTTP, insecure connections, or HTTPS. We will find it. Allow unsafe code. That's not it. Allow downloads over HTTP. Allowed in development builds. Alright, that's a good middle ground. You're just eating noodles now. Maggie? Is Maggie a kind of noodle? I'm not very familiar. Alright, surely this is the time that it works. We mix a scythe and a hoe, obviously. And we get no error is what we get. No error, but also no anything at all. Well, that ain't right. But more importantly, Maggie noodle? Oh, okay. It's like, it looks kind of ramen-y. It's a good snack. Mini masala. Ooh, that sounds good, actually. Alright, good snack. Good choice of snack. Alright, good news is we got no error. Bad news is nothing happened. So we're gonna need some debugging. Find out where we're falling off the wagon. Requesting an image for that item. Cool, cool, cool. Debug.log. Making request. We've got our error logging. Response received, we never received, right? Or do we just, we don't have... Okay. So we did get response received. I bet we're either going to have a problem in parsing or... Probably the parsing, I would guess. But let's see what we get. So that'll give us our base 64 data. This is the sprite we're creating. I'm not sure sprite.create is correct. Or maybe it is. I guess we did copy this code. Sprite.create. Yeah, like image.fromStream is what I've used before, but I think that's for images and not sprites. Let's see here. Let's just get a second opinion. Convert from base 64 string to bytes. Is that what we're doing? Yeah. Load image. Load image on a texture 2D. Oh, yeah, we are doing load image. Okay. Okay. So one more here. Created sprite and item image is null. Who is that behind you? Oh, is Lucy making an appearance? That is Lucy. She is afraid of all humans except for my wife and I. And she loves sleeping on that blanket, which is actually a Snuggie, fun fact. She's very cute, and she follows us to the bathroom every time we go. And also in my lap we have Dimitri, who is a little snuggle bunny and is very, very loud and vocal about wanting to be outside all the time. We just got 2 cats, and they are good little beans. But usually on stream days, she sleeps back there, he sleeps in my lap, and they don't move for like 5 hours straight. So, good times, good times. Alright, we're going to try this once more with all our debugging. We're going to find out what's going wrong. I bet it's in the parsing of the response to our object. So if we mix a file and an acorn, generating a response, there's our data. We get an engraved acorn. Now we're requesting an image for the engraved acorn. Still making the request. Probably shouldn't clear this out before we have the image, so we can keep it looking like it's still in progress, actually. Still making the request. Takes quite a bit of time. This is why we're moving to a bigger server after the stream. Let's see what we get. All right, we've got a response. This is our image data. We're going to go ahead and test that that is valid. I'm missing a T on the end, but I can type that manually. So here, pop that in, decode. Browser cannot display the file. Did I miss? It's so hard to copy text in the Unity editor. Oh yeah, I had, oh, and messages truncated too. Okay. Surely that's not the end of it. Oh, maybe, yeah, it doesn't look like that's the end of it. Alright, so we do get some sort of image data back. We do create the sprite and set it properly. Did we just forget to set our icon reference here? So if we look at this guy, inventory slot, icon is not set. That is our problem. Slot, icon. Wow, can't believe it wasn't even a code error. It was just a me being silly error. So theoretically everything should just work this time, surely. Okay. Remix a hoe and a fishing rod this time. We got NPCs generating their brains in the background, so it's a little messy, but we are requesting an image for a farmer's trident, which is made from what did we make it from? A hoe and a fishing rod. Okay. So we're still waiting for our response. Takes quite too long, but we do have an image. It's a garbage image, but it is an image. So there's a lot of ways we can improve the image, but it is an image. Oh, alright, there's still a little bit of work to be done on cleaning stuff up. We got to clear out the image when you drag stuff out of a slot. But we have an image. That is progress. Alright, so that was actually the hard part, I think. There's some cleanup here in the UI for like actually the gameplay interactions, all this weird bugginess here. But in terms of the image quality, the things that we're going to do are get a different model. There's a lot of different models. We're just using the default right now just to get stuff working in the game. We're going to probably train our own LoRa, which will give us a consistent style across all the images once we're happy with the like structure of each one. And we'll also do some prompt tweaking, which is probably the easiest thing we can do right now. So great example of that. Let's go back to our generation. So if we take this, go back here. So we got a farmer's trident. That is the prompt that we passed in. So we'll probably get a very similar image here after good 20 seconds. Dang. So easiest thing to improve it right now is to, let's say, a couple tokens up here like video game item sprite pixel 8-bit, and then down here we'll throw in our nice little diptych triptych to prevent these sort of like doubling up things. That is called a diptych here, is when you have two things next to each other. I will prove that I'm not just making that up. Let's also do like low quality, blurry. So if we add those positives and those negatives, hopefully we get something a little bit nicer here. And whatever prompt changes we do here, we can just move over to the code. But this will be a little bit faster to test instead of going into the game every time. Okay, so that's a little bit better. I feel like it's kind of leaning too far into like the video game item type thing. Let's take that out real fast. Let's say just item, I guess. Let's see if we get away from this sort of like inventory design. And I guess we could try a different sampler too, like I think Tuum Keras. Let's try that as well. We can pass in the different sampler as well. Let's say multiple. Let's also add single up here. We get a little closer. Just trying to get the closer to the content, not necessarily the style. We want a single item that is a trident. Okay, let's take off the pixel and 8-bit, I think. Going a little too hard on those, and I think we would need more steps to refine it. Or I guess we could just turn on a refiner. Let's see what change that makes. But congratulations everyone, we've made it to the point in the stream where we can just kind of fiddle around and generate images. We know the plumbing works, so now we're just tweaking the prompt a little bit to get something a little nicer than this for arbitrary images. So let's see what happens if we kind of change this formatting a little bit. Let's increase the weight of the name. We might actually need to, I think that's the syntax. So that's not going to apply to this one. We'll do one more afterwards. It's weird that it's going into this sort of like UI look. Maybe it's because I mentioned like farming and fishing or something. Okay, we're getting closer. Let's go ahead and decrease the weight of the description. We want to include it a little bit, but not make it overwhelming, because it might have a lot of tokens and keywords that take us away from the main idea. Okay, getting closer. Just say video game sprite here. What do we get then? This is really bad quality still though. Okay, that was a mistake. Video game sprite. Let's add collage on the negative, so we get fewer of the like lots of things. It's trying to do some text, so maybe we also say text and words. Okay, and let's just also say like stylized. I wish I could get away from this like multiple items format. But really none of these are tridents at all. I wonder if we're using Excel. We could go back to version 2.1 of Stable Diffusion. I don't think we want to because one, it's an older, like lower quality version, and two, it's trained on 768 by 768 instead of 512 by 512, so the images are larger, so they're going to take longer to generate when we're just scaling them down to this size anyway. I think the key is just going to be another model, really. But I guess we can probably do that pretty easily if I know where the path is. But I'm no Linux expert, so let's just do this. I did ps-aux to find a running process and got this. How do I find out where launch.py is on the system? I like all these emojis, by the way. The last one's real cute. Okay. Shows the current working directory of a process by its PID. Wow. That seems like a handy command to know. Alright. That's where we're going. So, what we will do is not close our console like that. We'll definitely open it because that's how things work. Cool, cool. So, setup. Wait, where are we? So in here, we should have a models directory. We do. And in there, it should have, I think, the Stable Diffusion models is what we want. Yeah. So, let's go over to Civet. And see if we can find anything for like video game items, maybe. We want them, we want them XL, I think. We could go down to 1.5. And we want checkpoints. So let's see what we've got to work with. Hopefully I don't pull up like copyrighted content or something. Okay, let's do RPG. I'm just gonna check some search terms. Let's go by that guy. Icons. Icons might get us close to what we want. I just want to get, yeah, something like this, where we get kind of the vibe. Let's check out some of these from the Game Icon Institute. We can do spells. Alright, let's look at some of these. So we've got, I think I will not do, I'm going to stray away from the ones with the like, time to sleep again, 3 a.m. Good luck this time. See ya. Thanks again for tuning in. Glad to have you here. I'm gonna avoid the like halo effect on these because I think we're gonna need another like post-processing effect to get a flat background and turn that transparent because Stable Diffusion can't do transparent backgrounds. So we're gonna need to generate stuff that have like a white background so we can use that to handle transparency. So these are pretty, but I think we'll look at these other guys. So this is 1.5. We could use 1.5. I don't know if 1.5 or 2.1 is faster. I just know 2.1 is generally like higher quality. It's a newer one. These are a little like low res, little like 3D low poly. I don't really like the vibe of. These are kind of cute. Well, let's try this smaller model. And we'll try without the VAE, I think. See some of the example images. Well, hopefully it doesn't. That's probably going to be a problem because it looks like a lot of the things it generates are these grids, which is exactly what we're trying to move away from. I don't want to have to slice the images and know, like, we can generate this and we could slice it into a 3x3, but we don't have a way to like programmatically make sure that it is a 3x3 and not like a 2x2, 1x1, or like something like this where it's got a slot missing, and so it would slice stuff and have a black slot on something. We also don't really know how to map like this specific image into a specific item because there's no data of what is what in these grids. You just have the prompt of 9 things of the same thing. But these are all by the person that posted the original Spanner Cat, I think. Probably. Maybe not. But this is definitely not produced, I would say, because of the aspect ratio. So they might have just edited it to look like this. But let's go ahead and let's get this download link. How do we get this download link? In fact, because we want to download it in Azure over here. That looks right. So if we say wget that, if we say sudo wget, let's make sure it's all one line. Okay, looks fine. Might need to quote it, I guess. Bad request. Alright, so we might need to be a little faster. So we cancel this. We sudo wget quote quote. We download this, which signs it temporarily. We go get the actual URL. We paste that in. Hopefully it's still signed. It is. Shazam. Alright, so we wait for that to download. We can go ahead and cancel it over here. We just needed the signed URL. And we'll probably need to update the permissions because I'm root right now, just to make sure we can access it from within the Stable Diffusion UI. So we'll just check and see what the user is on all the other files in the directory and match that. But we're downloading this model, sorry. And I think I like this one as well, but I don't necessarily want to try 2 models from the same person because I feel like if there are problems with this one, it's going to be related to like how it was trained and how it's set up, which will probably have the same problems in their other models that look very similar. So we might also grab this guy. Means a little trade-off in style over objects in the prompt. So that could be good or bad if it prioritizes looking good over being exact, especially in such an open-ended gameplay. Mostly cherry-picked is a little sus though. We need something that's good every time. Okay, we're going to look around a little bit more, I think. And we're going to look at Excel models for game. Maybe is there filters that we can use? For like types of models or something? Yeah, category, objects. All right. Do we get more if we get 1.5? We do. Magical gems, probably a little too specialized, but that's kind of the direction I want to go in. Plushies. I mean, we could... No, that's interesting. I was going to say we could do like a stylized or anime model or something and just see if it does items well, but this is actually kind of looking exactly like what we want. So let's do the exact same thing we just did. So here we sudo wget empty quote, we download this, we go to our download history to get the signed URL, we paste that in, download it directly to Azure, cancel it over here because we don't need it on this computer, but we'll get it over here, then we'll update the permissions on both of those. And hopefully they're a little nicer, maybe. Alrighty, let's try this. So we've got ls, leh. So, oh, those are hopefully the right. Just probably need to rename them. So let's do move fantastified icons to fantastified icons v2 dot safe tensors. And we also have move game icons to game icons dot safe tensors. That's fine. So now we need to make sure the permissions are good. So we have root on those because we're root right now. We actually want to make them Ubuntu. So as I said before, I'm not really a good Linux guy. So we're going to trust in the power of AI. What's the command to make the first two root owned files match the permissions and owners of the Ubuntu owned files? Easy peas. What's the commands? And I'm sure it'll give us chown and chmod. Cool. Owner and group. Easy peas. Pasting AI generated code into a root console. What could go wrong? 664 looks fine. Does one match already? It does not. Alright, so they all should match. They all have the proper permissions. If we refresh this page, oh, it's got a nice refresh button. Alright, cool. So let's try the game icons first. We'll load that in. All this prompt tweaking that we did probably can be undone, but I want to see what things look like with it, and then we'll undo it and just do it by default. But it'll need a second to load in up here. Or a minute. Or 20 years, we'll see. Alright, we gotta load it in. Let's generate one with the game icons. Okay, that's nowhere near what we need. Let's go ahead and take off all this stuff. We'll start blank slate. And let's double check to see if they have any recommendations on like the sampler or other things. Okay, that is terrible. So hopefully looks a little better soon. I wonder if it has like a keyword it needs. Game Icon Institute. Let's go ahead and put that at the front. Maximum weight. Takes quite some time, actually. What is it doing? Alright, we will start with the bare minimum. Just the trigger word and the item name. Save the description over here so we don't need to go generate another one. It's quite a slow model. I think we'll turn off the refiner too. It seems like gets really destroyed at the last step. Error timed out. Yeah, we really just destroying the server, I guess. Huh. Alright, so we will temporarily hold off on this. There's more code that we can write for some of the UI management stuff. Oops. So for example, like we need to clear out the space when you drag items out and so on. Might be a little hard to test if we can't generate items to move around though. So let's double check this. Shouldn't be in use. It is not. So if we generate something here, connection errored out. Interesting. Well, that explains why it errored out, I guess. Let's see what we can do about this. Checking to see if I have automatic 1111 on my computer already. Might be able to just swap out the endpoint and point it locally. But I don't know that I do. Doesn't look like it. Alrighty. What we're really doing is just stalling to see if this server comes back, or we can always just stop it and start it, I guess. Since it has the all the startup stuff to redeploy. Maybe it just crashed or something. Let's actually restart. Cool. So while we're waiting on that, there are some easy things that we can do. Over here, we load the item's image into a slot when we drag that item into the slot. But when we drag an item out of that slot, we are clearing that slot, I believe. So when we redraw the slot display, load inventory slot display, that's going to set the sprite on that item. We just want to find the flow through to make sure that the when you drag an item from one slot to another, it's also clearing the image in the source slot. And we'll probably set the item on our item being dragged, or set the image on that as well. I think that'll work well. Let's see here. On end drag, we check to see if we are dragging into a valid slot. Or if there's a child in it with a valid slot. We make sure that it can receive items. If it can, we fetch what's being sent so we can clear it. So here is where we're clearing the data, I believe. Yeah, just clearing the data there. And then we redraw the slot display on the source slot, which should, oh, I see. So yeah, when there's no image on the item in that slot, it doesn't change anything because obviously it needs an image. So if there's no item in the slot, it's keeping the old image. We need to clear that. And if there is a new item without an image, we should probably clear the old image as well. So maybe we actually just eat the null. And I think if there's no item in the slot, this will return null, sprite will return null. Will that just display nothing in the slot? Surely. Instead of erroring. One way to find out, I suppose. Let's see if this guy's back up. He is. So let's say, let's do one quick generation, make sure he's working, but let's grab our trigger word that we needed. And we'll say Farmer's Trident. I don't remember if that was the name or what, but it'll need a minute to load this model into memory, and then it's gonna generate what looks to be a very small screenshot. Item sprite. So we don't actually need to make this work, but this is actually pretty fast now. Way faster than the Excel model we were using. This is a 1.5 model, I think. So let's say landscape. Maybe. Just get a couple small keywords in here, see if it's a little bit better. It's not better. All right, let's see if our fix worked. Jumping back and forth, but that's all right. So here we are clearing the slot with null. So they are empty slots. It's probably not what we want to do. We just want to disable the slot. So while all that loads, we'll do that. But so we'll say if the item slot is null, we'll clear it. Otherwise, we'll set it. And we will say icon.set, or what's the enable? Set active. Game object set active. And so here we can just re-enable it and set the icon. I think that'll work well. Let's test that real fast because we want to show the background. We just don't want to show this sprite on top, which is what the white box is. And we want to leave it white because that's going to be the tint on the item when we have an item. So let's do a fishing rod and an acorn. All of these don't have items, which is why they don't have any background or sprite showing. We've cleared that out, but we are generating the image for an enchanted fishing rod here. So hopefully we should get an image here. And we do want to like not clear that out until we get the image. So let's, while we wait on that, item combining controller. Got result from recipe callback. Where are we clearing this out? Oh, I bet it's when we consume the items. Up here. Redraw slot display. Yeah, that is true. I think that's actually going to be fine though, because we'll have some sort of like swirling animation here. So it will show that it's in progress. and then we'll have consumed the items. So we have our enchanted fishing rod, and it looks like it has an item, or an image. It's not very useful, but we can swap around. The image stays in the correct spot. We'll put the image on this drag as well. If we take this guy and this guy, we should get a new image. Self-referencing loop detected. Interesting. Image.bounds. Oh, is it including the image data on the serialization now? That's probably not what we want. We're serializing the item here, which now does have... Can we tell this to not serialize it? Do not serialize. So if we do that, does it autocomplete anything? No. Unity, exclude field from Newton, soft serialize. Non-serialized. Okay. Cool. That'll be helpful. Yeah, I think that error killed it. So we got a bit more, you know, error checking to do around. We had a couple ways that it's died today, but we're making progress. So let's do an axe and a scythe. Maybe we can get a cool image there. Yeah, that's fine. And this is still using the default Excel model. We didn't pass through the new model name that we're using. We're still testing around, but that'll be super simple. We just added to the parameters here, model name. Waiting for our image, we got response. This is, yeah, we really need to get the image quality working, but it's kind of nice that we now have images, and I think it'll be a little clearer when we take the text off of the top, but I want to kind of hold off on that until we actually have proper images of items instead of like a scene. But that's all just in the setup of the model itself. So we've got an harvest axe here. We also want to add it to the tooltip, I suppose. But things are looking good. If we do pestle and mortar, scissors, let's just try one more, I suppose, and then let's add it to the tooltip next, and also add it to the drag and drop. And then we'll probably extend our alchemy animation until it's actually done, versus I think it only runs for like a few seconds. Oh, here's where we turn it off. So instead of turning it off when we get the data back, now we need to turn it off when we get the image back. So we got an herb cutting set, interesting. You know, we could probably make the image in the tooltip a little bigger, because they probably will be higher quality. Kind of hard to see in your inventory, but all right, we can work with this. So let's add it to the tooltip first. But that all works, which is good. So let's find our item tooltip. We have an item tooltip UI controller. In here, we need to set a public image, item image, include UI. When we load the item data now, we can say item image.sprite is equal to item.image, and if it's null, it'll just be a white box, which I think is fine, I guess. We will get to the point where all of our starting items have images. So it won't actually be an issue, but that should at least set our image in the tooltip now. And now for the dragged item, floating icon, I believe is what we call it, yeah. So this guy, say icon. Oh, right. Oh, we have the image on the parent. All right, so let's say UI image icon. And we can put the text below it, I suppose. Let's get rid of the image on the parent. Unless we needed it for raycasting. No, okay. And then let's find where we do the floating icon creation, which I think is on begin drag. Yes. So here we find the name component. We might as well just find the icon component as well. And we could set up some sort of parent script on a floating icon just to do both of these, but I don't think it's really worth it. For now at least, because it doesn't really have any logic. We can just do that logic here, it's just temporary. But those should now both have the image included. I want to disable the item name here. I want to see how that looks. So let's give that a shot. See how things are looking. We should also have the animation until we have the actual image as well now. So if we open this up, why do we... Oh, no, nothing. None of these have images. Okay. That's fine. These are all just test items. We need to give them images, but... So if we take our hoe and our shears, make something of that. Oh. Oh. Yeah, maybe we did need the... Oh, okay. We're recasting onto the icon now. We gotta turn that off. So in our floating item, when we stop dragging, we're firing a raycast at the point that our cursor is at, and it's hitting this icon image instead of the slot that we are dragging onto. So if we just disable the raycast target on that, the raycast will go through this image and actually hit the slot, and then it's a valid drop target. That's how we determine if we are dragging onto a slot or not. So now we'll combine a saw and a fishing rod. And this will run for a minute, I suppose, because now we're generating the data, also generating the image. Probably want some sort of animation on him as well, of doing some magic stuff, I don't know. But yeah, without any sort of animations or anything, this takes quite a while, but hopefully with some animations it'll feel punchy enough. Alright, the image is terrible, but the image itself looks good. When you drag, you get the name over it, which is kind of nice. It's a little weird. I might move that and do stuff with it, but it looks good in the tooltip minus the circular frame on it. Maybe we switch to a square frame just because it's going to be a while before we get transparency on the image. But if you imagine that this is a good image, like the systems itself works, which is nice. Let's take a spade and scissors, make something else. But this, I could see your inventory filling up with these, assuming it's a good image, of course. And it could be kind of cool to craft something interesting and weird, and then you see like visual of it too, which is cool, I think. So if this works, which it does, we get some shears. So that's kind of a cool little image. I think the image itself can probably be bigger in this tooltip so you can see it better. But yeah, I mean, an inventory of these seems fine. If you open your inventory, it's kind of hard to see what each item is at a glance without hovering over to see the names, but I'm really hoping that the image itself will carry that. But we will see. I'll probably also have some borders over, like tools get one border, materials get another border, food gets another border, stuff like that, so you can kind of differentiate that easier. But we've got it in our drag and drop, we've got it in our tooltip, everything's looking good. We need some default images, I think. But I think we can move back to getting good image quality going. So let's do this. Right. So that gives a little bit more room for the text, which we noticed was a little cramped. Let's try this other model, the Fantasified Icons, which might work a little bit better. We also need to handle image generation for when we generate new items in other ways. So using tools on objects, some of the workstation stuff that we're doing where you like disassemble items or bless items or combine multiple items in a different way. But I think all those can go through the like routing of this, and I'll probably do all those off stream. I think once we get the actual image generation flow going here, it'll be good. So let's try, oops, don't need that trigger word anymore. Let's just try the item's name. I think this model is going to be it. Oh yeah, that looks so good. We got to actually get the correct item though. This should be a trident. It is not a trident. Let's try once more. Let's see what happens if we do like a really high weight on the name. So they are pretty, but I mean, it's always a trade-off of like how good do you want the model to default to versus how accurate do you want the prompt to be. So, okay, I think when we go too heavy of a weight, that's when we're going to get a background. It's bringing in a farmer and his cow. Let's try just bumping it down a little bit for this one. It's kind of a cool like sword looking thing. And then I'll try a couple like sampling methods, I think. That's pretty cool. Let's try our 2M Keras. And then we also want to bring in the description of the item as well. So again, we got the background, which we don't want. It's just trying to ham in farming as a concept into the item. But let's grab our description that the items generate with. Let's see what we get when we kind of do a higher weight on the item name, lower weight on the description, because we don't want to get too off track. But this might work well. And I think having a little bit of a background is fine. It's not like we're going to do that transparency post-processing right now. So it might look nice. But these are not accurate enough yet, I would say. But they are really interesting. I'm going to try one more sampler here. But other than that, I think what we can do is let's switch our generation code over to use this model as just a default, because it's way better than the XL version. Oh, hey Tony, thanks for popping in. It is looking really cool. I'll show you in just 1 second. Let me figure out how to use this model, because our XL model that we are defaulting to is pretty terrible. But if we have a model name or something in the API docs, surely we can just specify what model to use. Surely. Sampler. Oh, it defaults to the old Euler. Huh. Refiner checkpoint is not what we want. We want like a regular checkpoint. Sampler name? How's that different from sampler index? SD model checkpoint. Although we will probably just update the config, since we want to make sure it's loaded in memory. But if we do a request where it loads it in memory, it should already be fine. Let's see here. Sorry you didn't join until now. No, it's all good. I've just been coding away. I didn't know how well it would go, but we've got a lot done. So let me try this, and then I'll show you around. There's actually a lot to show you. I'll show you the whole world. A lot of progress this week. Let's see here. Here we've got negative prompt is an empty string, so here we do escaped. My brain is melting. Why did this go to a new line? Alright, so we got our things, colon, escaped quote, and then we need the name of our model, which is Fantasified Icons v2, I think. Might need to specify .safe tensors, we'll see. But let's see if that works. We also don't have any default item icon quite yet, so when I open the inventory it's all empty until we start creating items, but YOLO. Let's see if this works. So we will combine a hammer and an axe and hope we don't get that weight error that we got earlier, or every other time we've combined these. We'll see. So hammer and axe is generating into a lumberjack's pride. We've got the data for it. Now we're generating the image for it. We'll see what we get. It also takes a little while because, you know, AI. All right, that is a janky little icon, but we got our lumberjack's pride. A masterful hybrid for the craftsman of the wilderness, combining the force of a hammer with the slicing edge of an axe. Perfect for building, breaking, and cutting with unmatched efficiency. So let's also combine a hoe and a whetstone. Sure. See what we get there. But, I mean, it's a little janky now because our inventory looks empty because we don't have those default images. We need to basically take all of our global starting data items, which are all in code right now, and we need to convert those over to scriptable objects so that we can edit them in the Unity editor, so that we can generate images for them and store those static ones that it starts with. So we got a sharpened hoe. Cool, cool, cool. So we're starting to get more items. Let's combine a scythe and some scissors. And now I will take this sharpened hoe. Oh, we broke it. I don't have a way to move things onto the toolbar yet. Oh, right. Okay. So, you know, I'll fix that in a minute. Let me show you around this world. This crazy, crazy world. So we got a big old town. Potentially too big, but who knows. We've got 2 entrances to the town. We've got a nice little fella locked up over here. Wonder what he did. He's got some text problems, we'll see. But he's a little scammer put in jail. Who knows? We got a guard out front. Still gonna animate them all, set up like routines for them to move around town, talk to each other, all that cool, smart stuff. We got more guys around here. We brought back our UI system. This is still in progress for crafting. We brought back our interaction system, so you click on objects now, you get the things. The generation piece with the lumberjack pride was awesome. Hell yeah, brother. Yeah, I think it's going to be really cool once we get like an inventory full of stuff. So interacting with objects in the world also hasn't hooked up to generate images yet. But, you know, let's grab some lemons and then maybe... Oh, right. Still got to fix the tool belt. But it's a massive world. We've got... round back, this big old mountain, which I'll fill with like ores and stones and stuff to mine. We got a little placeholder farming plot here. We got a little fishing dock. We got our big old forest over here. Over yonder is a volcano with a desert around it. We've got like a dead forest over there. We've got some hot springs and like geysers and stuff on the other side of this guy. We've got the coast way over there. It is quite a large world that takes a long time to get around. But you know, I think it'll be good to grow into. Let me do a quick little fly around. That'll be the best way to show it off. So, check out that bad boy. We are slowly going in. Alright, we got our town, got a waterfall, a nice lake. This will be a path up into the mountain. The goal is to let the player get like up here and have a really good view of like the whole world. Maybe a little lake below with like coasts and stuff. Haven't really done that quite yet, but we also got a coast over here. I'm going to put a little like fishing town or something down here. We've got our big old desert, and we got a little grove here that we're going to fill with like cherry blossoms and dragons. Because why not? We've got a little dead forest that we'll do some stuff with. Big old forest. We got our little big old tree grove, and then I'll put another town here, I think, with there's like a gate town, trading town type thing. The mountain range I just carved and sculpted myself. This guy's way too big, I think, and this guy's too small, so gotta work a little bit more on scale. These guys are looking a little small too, but otherwise looking good. I think really like either one of these could be the right size. You just can't really have both of them be so different in size. But yeah, I just carved all those myself with the terrain. The pre-made assets are like these rocks. but I just stuck them around where they might look nice. But yeah, you can also talk with the NPCs. All the dialogue and stuff is hooked up. I'll show that off real quick. Let's see who we got here. A couple of blacksmiths over yonder. So we got Braun. He's got his stuff. We've got suggested responses to generate your own response. So it'll generate the dialogue for you, and he'll keep talking. You can also say, how about a magic butterfly? That would help. And convince him that something might help, and all this dialogue gets passed into the AI of determining if the item you give them would help. So there's a little bit more of like, you can convince them that something would help ahead of time, or ask them if it would help. There's no NPC named Alara. We still need to hook them up to their world atlas. But they all have their own problems, which is cool. I had a really cool idea for trading with them, like almost like a mini game. I'll have to prototype that and show you. Might be a little hard to demonstrate on stream, but things are looking good. I haven't hooked up the anvil and the statue you pray at and a couple of the other like workstations in this scene quite yet, but they're coming too. Don't think that is set up. Yeah, we're just gonna do nothing, I guess. But yeah, it's looking good. I like it. Let's see here. Let me fix the tool belt problem that we have. Actually, it'll be best if I just get the error so I can jump to it. But I mean, the image generation was way easier than expected. It wasn't like easy, but it wasn't impossible. So that was fun. Alrighty. So icon.gameObject.setActive is false. These tool belts probably don't have the image set. So if we go over to our HUD, hotbar, tool belt body, tool belt slot, yeah, they don't have an image. So let's give them one. And we actually need to name it something specific, I think. Oh, actually, no, we don't. We can just set the reference. All right, so this guy looks fine. Guess we can put the text on top. And we just need to set that image reference here, and this should just work. Always a good sign when it isn't impossible. You know, but sometimes the impossible things are the most fun to do. Alright, we now have those initializing correctly. We make a hoe and a fishing rod. We'll get an image there. We'll drop it on the tool belt, see if it shows on the tool belt. And then the next thing we should do is probably, I mean, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to do a default image because all these items will either have an image already or they'll generate an image. So we got an aqua tiller for those looking to cultivate both land and water. So if we drop that, all right, that's kind of cool. It's a little janky text on it, but it seems to work. Mortar and pestle. Let me get a hammer. Actually, I think the solution here is I've disabled the text so we can show the image, but I think what we want to do is just enable the text if it doesn't have an image. So we'll say item name set active team object dot set active of true if it doesn't have an image, and if it does have an image, we will disable the text and show the image itself. Enchanter's Forge. Yeah, these items are looking pretty cool. I like this model a lot. It's from, where'd we get it? Fantasified Icons. So some examples, but seems to work pretty well out of the gate. We still need to do like a post-processing step where we take the background image and make it transparent. And I think I want to make it a little bit larger in these slots, but I can do that another day. But the only qualm I have with this, it's not always accurate in what it's drawing an image of, but it does look cool every time, and they look pretty unique every time. So let's try an axe and a whetstone. Probably give us a really sharp axe. So that's probably going to be a cool image, maybe. But it'll be a while, I suppose. I just realized with the images in the hotbar, we now don't have an indicator of which one is selected. So we gotta put a little something over it, I guess. Sharpened axe. It's not as cool as I thought it would be, but it is an image. So at least there's that. I think next up, maybe I'll do a little like triangle over whatever slot is active, just so we can see what is selected. And I think having the text will kind of clear up the empty inventory problem, so that'll be nice. An enchanted battle axe. All right. So our tool belt slots, I think, have a method for setting active. Tool belt slot controller. So for showing a highlight and hiding a highlight, we just trigger something active or not. So if we take that highlighted background, turn it on, move it up, and scale it down. Or maybe do we have like a triangle? UI. Okay, we'll just look through. Could do something like this. See if there's anything better, I suppose. Could do something like that. Kind of wish it wasn't black and white, but see. There we go. That'll do for now. We can make it like green, I think. Yeah. So this guy we can just bind to the top and put him here. And we will disable that. So now this should just work. So now our selected item is a little indicator over here, which I kind of like because it means when we're interacting with something, it's almost like the item is pointing to the object we're interacting with, which I think logically makes sense because we're gonna, I mean, obviously the item you get as a result is based on which item you're using. So if I take an axe here and a hammer here, we can now say, use the hammer on that. And I think we'll have some sort of like little indicator of what item you'll get here, maybe. I don't know. But we can also use the axe on that too, which we still need an animation for. Yeah. We need to handle image generation on the item created from this interaction, and then we'll add that image in this slot. But I think that's a flow that I'll do off stream maybe. Kind of want to just make items now. And try and make it faster, I guess. Alright, we've got a handful of berries and a bunch of broken branches. When this is done, we got our harvester's edge. It's kind of cool. I do think these images in the tooltip are still a little too small. I'll make those bigger. But I'm going to take a quick bathroom break. I will be right back. I'm going to leave this generating an item. We'll see what we get, and we'll craft a bunch of them in the more like handful of berries and branches style instead of tools and weapons. So we'll make sure that works too. But I will be right back. Thanks for tuning in. Good to have y'all here. As soon as I find my OBS window. There it is. Alrighty, friends. With our broken branches and a handful of berries, we got a berry-infused kindling. Looks creepy. Looks cool. But we got a bunch of them now. Alright, so I think what we want to do next, let's hook up interacting with objects, do the image generation on those generated items. And I think off stream is where I'll convert all of these into scriptable objects, because that's going to be pretty boring. But I'll need to generate items, images for those for the game to start with as well, which might be kind of fun. So maybe I'll turn them into scriptable objects off stream, but I could do like a bonus stream of generating images for all the items or something another time. But I don't think I'll do that this stream. I think I'll stream for maybe 10, 20 more minutes. See what we can get done. Yeah. So let's go to our generic interactable world object. And when we interact with that, we need to do all of our image generation during the research stage, which is what happens before you start harvesting that first time, when he just kind of looks at it and he's like, what am I doing here? That's where we're generating the data for the item that will be harvested. So we're also going to generate the item for that data as well. And we could be a little clever there and like start harvesting sooner, because we know harvesting will take some time before they get the item, and then we can bank on having the item generated by the time they harvest the item. But I think we'll just follow the simple flow of wait for the item data and the image and then start harvesting. So let's do that. So here is where we prompt for the result of using this tool on this object. When we get that result, it is a JSON representation of the item that is harvested. This is where we save that recipe of using that tool on that object results in this item. So here, we now want to generate an image for this item, which we will use in a private IEnumerator generate item image. And I'm kind of realizing that it's going to be the same almost as this guy and this guy, but with this logic different. So what we'll probably do, I'm going to get it just working, duplicating the code in both places, but I think the correct thing to do afterwards is refactor both of these guys into a Stable Diffusion API service, and you call this guy with an item and a callback that gets called that contains whatever logic you want done afterwards. But I think for simplicity, I'll just duplicate the code basically. So actually, I say basically, but I'm going to just copy this over for now. So the stuff that's different is going to be here. And a little bit different here because we don't have a UI indicator of doing stuff. It's all player animations and I guess different UI indicators. So we will start coroutine, generate image for item for this item, which will request an image with that item's name and description using this model. When we get a response, we trigger got image for item with that item and the response. Here we are serializing that response so we can grab the base64 data out of it, converting that base64 data into a texture, and then creating a sprite from that texture of the texture's height and width with the data. Guess we can take out a lot of this debug now that we know it all works. And then finally we use that sprite we just created, set it on the item, and then the item is set up. So at this point, is when we want to do all of this. So what happens for our interacting with an object when we don't have the recipe yet for using that tool on that object, we are going to generate the item it results in with this coroutine, which calls this with the item. We deserialize the item data into an item, save that recipe, start generating a image for that item. And when we have that image, we continue on to got image for item. And then finally, when the item is all ready to give to the player, we are going to add that item to the game itself with item database.add item. We will mark that item as discovered by the player, which unlocks it for like traveling NPCs to buy and sell and stuff. We will add that item to the player's inventory. We will also show a little pop-up of that item to tell the player they got it. And so in here is where we want to also show the image for that icon, or that item. So let's go ahead and do our floater item acquired prefab, I think is what we're looking for. So this guy, we're going to want a square border, I think, because we're working with square items for now. But if we do a frame, maybe like that. And this is our sprite, item sprite. And we'll do a background that's not rounded, just the regular background. And we want to bring the sprite all the way up to the corners almost. And so here, we'll need to update the float controller, I think. Set item, yeah. So here we want a public image from Unity Engine UI, item image, and we will set item image.sprite is the item's image. Cool, I think that'll work. And we gotta set that reference. I think that will work. Because show item acquired pop-up calls set item. Yes, okay. So, one other small tweak I wanted to do is on the item tooltip. We want to make this guy square as well, and also slightly larger. So we'll do like, wait, is this a border or a background? It's supposed to be a border. That's a good one. What we want is that to be larger, I think. Maybe. What happens if we go all the way up to 256? Is it too large? Maybe. So our icon, we can bring all the way up to the corners now. Actually, we probably just want to bring it in that way. And then we can move stack over. And values stuff. I think we'll switch from a vertical layout group to a horizontal layout group, and we'll move it down. And these guys don't need to be this big. That's a good little placeholder. Maybe the bag. So both of these guys, scale them on down to like 32. And these guys, I'll center all these and stuff later. Feel like we'll redo this tooltip at some point. Just trying to get it looking kind of nice now. Alrighty. And then I think with this we can not force the expand. Maybe. It's fine. Maybe we should align that with the frame and center it. It's fine. But that'll give us a bigger image, which I do like. I feel like the description gets a little small sometimes, so I want to give that more space and let the attributes fall down lower. I don't think I've seen any with more than 3 attributes, so we can always obviously increase the height of this if the stuff overflows, but I think this is probably a good default. And I think lastly our detail stack needs to go over a little more. That looks like a better tooltip to me. We could even move this guy. Is that weird? Kind of needs to be leveled with those, but such a different vibe and ratio that maybe it can stick around down there. But I do think that the value could be a little bit bigger. Maybe even bigger than that. Alright, that's looking better, I'd say. Let's test all those changes. We should have items generating with images when we punch a tree, for example, but this plan will take a lot longer now. So we probably do want some sort of like inspection animation or something, and a little like celebration of fireworks or something when you discover a new, whatever we want to call these, harvest plans or something. But it is promising that it's taking so long because, yeah, there's some images. Alright, bet. Oh, I think we need to disable raycasting on the image or something. Or maybe move the tooltip up so the cursor is not hitting it. But that's nice. So if we bring in our axe, we now use an axe on it. We got shade tree saplings from punching it. What do we get with our axe? And that's a pretty good image, I'd say. The aspect ratio on this is all goofed up because we're scaling this, I think. Shade tree logs, okay. So inventory is now very quickly filling up with items that have images, which is nice. Let's do one more with a hammer, see what we get. Takes quite a while for the recipe generation now, so we'll want to work with that a little bit more. But I think it's fine. I think it'll feel more, we can make it feel more rewarding when you discover this new way to interact with things. So now we're getting shade tree planks. All right. Okay, those are pretty decent images, I'd say. While we do that, we could take a fishing rod and a sickle, maybe. Craft something up while we harvest. See what we get. And then I think I'll fix this flickering tooltip, and then we might call it. Now that's a cool image. Harvester's rod. But I can't select it because of this dang tooltip. Alright. Yeah, it's hard to see. Let's fix this flickering tooltip real fast. And I think that's going to be super easy because we're already scaling it up from the cursor position. We just need to move it up further so our cursor doesn't hit it with the raycasts. Although I guess we probably should disable raycasts on everything. Like the frame is probably what is hitting it. So let's just go through and make sure that raycast target is disabled on all of these. I can't remember if TextMesh Pro has raycasts. It does. Alright, type. And this is probably good just in general, so because I don't think we're ever going to want to click on a tooltip. Only causes weirdness when you're expecting to click on something underneath. Alright, that's a nice little cleanup. Let's make sure that I didn't move the tooltip too high. We did not move it up at all, but the flickering is gone, which is great. Let's combine shears and a scythe. Let's also maybe cut some oak logs. If we can get to the tree, maybe not. Let's hit a bush with an axe. Wonder if we've gotten any errors or if this is just taken forever. We did get an error. What for? Oh, okay, just editor stuff. Alright, harvest blade. Interesting, interesting. I think the bigger image in the tooltip is great. And we can color that frame, like the frame around the image, to better signify like whether it's a tool or a material or something. I think that'll be nice. We could also do the outer frame if we want like rarity on items or something. We're getting some thick branches. Nice, nice. Let's go cut a birch tree. See if we can get some birch logs. I think that might actually... We'll see what happens there, because we have axe on birch tree as a recipe already. Yeah. And that recipe results in birch logs, which are in the game already and don't have an item image. So that's fine. If we were to take a bucket, use the bucket on the tree, that's when we're coming up with a recipe. Or a harvest blade. We'll try that next. But I think this is looking good. I think maybe after a couple of these tests, we'll call it for the day. Probably stream some more, either like a bonus dev stream or something this week while I'm working on images or playing a game. I don't think I streamed a game last week or the week before or something, so we'll get back into it. We get some birch sap here. Alright, so let's use our harvest blade on the birch tree, see what we get. And I think what we'll do is we'll add a bunch of stuff in the like UI that you can be doing while your player is researching stuff. We just got more birch logs. Let's try a fishing rod. Because we got a helmet of superiority from something. Interesting. Some weird things afoot. Tangled twigs. Alright. Oh, okay. Things are finally working. Alright, well, we did it. There's images in the game now. Still got to do our default images, but with the small exception of some of our workbenches where you can create items in other ways, the two main ways to create items, through crafting and through interacting with objects, they both have image generation now. We have a pretty basic model for generating images that will do some prompt tweaking to get a better style. We can also train a LoRa for even more style control. Throw it on top. We're not using a VAE or anything, so we'll get some quality increases there. And we need to, I think I may have already said, but we'll get those default images on all these starting icons, starting items, so we can get nice clean inventory to start. But really we're just focused on like systems here. We still need to layer in like the plot and the actual RPG elements and stuff. We're just building the cool systems to build the game on top of right now. And I would say they're working. We got some cool images. They're not the greatest, but they represent the item. That's good enough. And we got this whole big world. We've got NPCs with dynamic conversations and plot lines. We've got a big old library of objects that we can build out the world with and kind of control the depth of the crafting system at any point, because it will go infinite, but we can kind of keep it limited, at least at the start, to kind of onboard the player in. We're still going to do trading with the NPCs, so the player can get more items that way. They already get some items when they complete quests, but there's plenty more to do, so I will keep working on it, but I'm going to do it off stream. And it was nice having everyone join in. I see there's only a couple of us, so I don't think I'll raid this week, but maybe next week we'll have 10,000 people in the stream and we will raid the president. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. My name's Andrew. If all this was interesting or fun, check out our Discord in the description, and follow if you haven't, because I stream every Tuesday, but I also stream occasionally on other days, and I will see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in. Can never find my OBS window. Here it is. See ya.